In this video I'm going to show you how to work out the area of a triangle when you're not given the height. Now, finding the area of a triangle is not based on what level paper you are doing, it's based on the information that's given to you. So it's important that you don't forget the basics. So there are several ways in which you can find the area of a triangle, and so the first possible way that you've been taught is to find the area of a triangle when you're given the base and the height. So when you're given that information, the key thing or the formula that you need to use to work that out is that the area is equal to the base times the height divided by 2, or as some people like to use it, as a half base times height. So either way of using it would give you the same answer. Another way of calculating the area of a triangle is when you are given two sides and a connecting angle. So, the formula that we use for this is the area is equal to a half AB sine C. Now, if you are given this, then the key thing to note here is that C is the angle that we're using. So when you're labelling your triangle, always label your angle as C and then label the connecting sides as A and B before attempting the equation, or substituting the equation rather. And another way of calculating the area of a triangle is using Herons Formula, and that is when you know the lengths of all three sides. So to work this out, what you need to do first is work out the value of S, which is calculated by adding the three sides together and then dividing by 2. And then to work out the area, we substitute it into this formula here. And we can then work out the area. Now, as I said, this formula of Herons Formula is not really used in most A-level syllabuses, but you would not lose any marks if you were to quote this by working it out. Obviously, mark schemes won't be applying and using this as a way of working out the answer, but it would be completely and utterly valid as it is a viable way of finding the area of a triangle. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at some example questions. So as you can see, in this question we're asked to find the area of a triangle, and what you can also see is the fact that I have not been given the height. So the first thing I'm going to use is, as I'm being given two sides and an angle, I'm going to use the formula of a half AB sine C. So I'm going to start off by, now whereas using the cosine or sine rule, I always start with labelling the side X as A. Well, in this case we're not given X, so I'm going to label this angle C, only because that the only angle in the formula is angle C. And then from that I can then label the two connecting lines as A and B. So from this, what I'm going to do is substitute it into the formula. So I've got a half times 7 times 4 times sine of 72, and if I put that into my calculator, which I'm going to do now, so it's a half times 7 times 4 times sine 72, I get the answer of 13.31 centimetres squared, so not forgetting the units, and I'm also going to write down to what degree I've rounded it up to. So moving on to our second example. So here I've been given two angles and two sides. Now again, because I've not been given the height, I'm going to use the formula of the area is equal to a half AB sine C. Now with this I've been given two angles. So the question is, which angle do I use? Now, in order for us to use this formula here, I need to find A and B need to be the two connecting sides to form the angle. So in the 35-degree angle, as you can see, I've got one connecting side, but unfortunately I don't know what this side here is. So what I'm going to do is as I've got 11 and 17 form to make the angle of 45, I'm going to label this as C, this as lowercase a, and this as lowercase b. So finding the area of this particular triangle, all I'm going to do is a half times 11 times 17 times sine of 45, and if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 66.1 centimetres squared, and in this case I've rounded it off to one decimal place. So moving on to our third and final example. what we get is, in this particular question, it says when the area of the triangle is 14 centimeters squared, find x to 1 decimal place. So this is what we call a reverse question. So again, making note of the formula. So I've got 1/2 times a b sine c. Let's get rid of that times, just because sometimes you can think that involves an x. So from this, all I'm going to do is substitute the information that I know. So I know that the area is 14. I've got 1/2 times, now again, it's labelling the triangle, so let's call this one A and this one B. So times x times 4.9 times sine of 115. And so if I pull this all together, I get 14 equals 1/2 4.9 sine 115 x. And so all I need to do is to take this to the other side. So I've got x equals 14 divided by 1/2 times 4.9 times sine 115, and typing that into my calculator, I'm going to get an answer of 6.31 centimeters to 1 decimal place. So as you can see, the key thing to remember here is, although some of the formulas that I've mentioned are going to be quite new to you, hopefully the first two aren't. The third one of Herons Formula is something that you can use, but like I said, I don't think it's covered on many of the exam boards. Obviously by the time you watch this video that could all change, so we could easily do that, and all you need to do is work out the respective values and substitute it into the formula. So the key thing to remember is try not to overcomplicate questions. Always look at the information that's given and try and then apply it to the correct formula. If you require any help, further help, or a worksheet on this particular topic, feel free to drop me an email at 162maths@gmail.com.